Hello, my name is Jessica A. Brooks, and I am a grief coach. And I wanted to come on and talk about grief today. Um, I typically do, or sometimes do, monologues and different events like that. I was going to have one today, have an event today, but I ended up canceling it. But I did promise God that I would start getting back to um, doing what I'm called and purpose to do. So I decided to record a video today, and um, yeah, and talk about grief some, and then hopefully, eventually, I will get it back into the in person um, things. Okay, so I hope this is informational for you, and also I hope that you can get something out of this video. So, like I said, I am a grief coach, and I usually talk about grief and loss. We know that loss is um, it's one of the biggest things that we go through in life, or one of the hardest things that we go through in life. One of the things that we kind of stuff aside and don't talk about, process, and also go through the experiences isolated or alone, or through anger or whatever that looks like for you. And so I want to start the conversation with grief and loss. Um, I want to open it up. I want you to know that it's okay not to be okay. It's just not okay for you not to ask for help. And so I wanted to share some of my experiences and some things that I've learned to help you get through tough times. Okay. Um, I've experienced so many different types of loss. I was touched as a child between 9 and 10. Um, I lost my mom in 2007, lost my dad in 2017. I recently, I think it was 2021, I had a hysterectomy, which means that I am not able to have children. And so, so many different losses has happened in my life. Relationships in my life has not always been good. So now I say I have seasonal people who come into my life because not everybody stays, you know? And so the question why just popped in my head. But that's one of the questions that we ask ourselves when we are losing a loved one, when we're losing a certain thing, when relationships doesn't go as well, when finances are not where could be or should be, and we ask the question why a lot. And guess what? Typically, we don't necessarily get an answer. We don't know why. And that's where acceptance, I've learned, accepting things that we cannot change. Acceptance is key, and also surrender. But you got to get there, and it's tough to get there at times, right? Right. And so um, I was going to have a gentleman, Tracy Logan, to come on and help me with this event today. But I decided not to, but he is a trainer for physical health. So if you guys are needing a trainer, please reach out to Tracy Logan. He is on Facebook. I don't have his contact information, but he is located on Facebook. Um, I God said, do it just you, and so specifically I have, like I said, different people to come on and also share their stories and things of that nature. So it just has to be me. So I am doing it through Zoom because I couldn't figure out a different way to record this other than getting my brother's equipment and doing all the things. And so I ran out of time, wasn't able to do all of that. So I'm doing it through Zoom, and I'm going to share, okay, I'm gonna share my screen so I can pull up my PowerPoint, okay, to help us through these things. So grief and loss is one of the toughest things that we go through and that we experience. Well, loss is, and then grief is the response to the loss. And like I said, many times we don't um, necessarily deal with it or handle it, or we try to pray it away. But our flesh, we have to remember that our flesh, it hurts, it aches for that person, that thing, or whatever that may be in your life. And so we got to find some type of balance. Um, yes, God can heal you. God can deliver you. God will provide for you. God is always with you. Your higher power, whoever that may be, is with you. And also, you have to remember that making a choice to you to have God in your life, your higher power, and also do the things for yourself to help you, because the word says that faith without works is dead. So if God is doing his part, you definitely have to do your part. And sometimes we just don't know how to do our part. Um, and so many a times how we experience things and how we respond to those things is based off of what we have learned, in our environment, in our culture, and things of that nature. So if you saw mom and daddy not responding to a loss, then you may not respond to a loss. If you saw all your mom did was cry, then that's possibly all you're gonna do is cry. If you saw your dad, all he did was holler and scream about certain things, then you may also see that, because those are learned behaviors. We learn how to process and get through things at a young age. And then as we grow up, we are supposed to take those things and also move forward with those things, but we find our own way. And so if those things that we have typically like not um, that was not handled well in our lives, then we want to do it a little better than what we saw and what we've learned. And so that takes us to being willing and open. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Here we go. I can pull it up. Oh, gotta click share. Okay. Excuse me, just got through eating. So that takes us to willingness. Um, I remember when my mom passed away and I was not willing at all because I didn't understand it. I did not know what was why why she just didn't wake up. I didn't know, you know, why like I kept asking myself what just happened. And yes, I used the word HELL. What the hell just happened? And I think probably the rest of that day it was what the hell. So forgive me for that, but that's what happened in the moment. It's a real moment. So at that moment, I was willful. I was not willing. I was resistant, and I was also refusing to accept reality. And so when you are willful, that means you are closed minded. You're stubborn, you're pushing everything away. Nothing about reality makes sense to you. And so you're closed. And so there was nothing that could get into me, my mind, my thoughts, my heart, and soul, in nothing. That was nothing. And then somewhere down the line, um, which was probably, see, my mom passed away in 2007. So probably sometime to the end of 2008, maybe beginning of 2009 is when I was at least open to the process. Open just means that you're accepting what is and you're responding in an effective and appropriate way to it. Okay. But when I became willing, I was only willing because I had recently got my cousins, and now they're my kids that adopted them. And when I got my kids, it was like um, I was like we weren't going to church. We would still like kind of do things, but I was so closed in the process of grieving that I didn't have it. I didn't have it. I was supposed here I am supposed to be a representative as a mother, and my mother just passed. So I'm like, really? So you now you want me to be a mother, and you just took my mother. So the main person that I was angry at that time was God. And so um like I said, as time moved, I became willing well, it wasn't once I got my kids, it was down the line. Because I needed to start a foundation for them. I needed to be an example for them. I needed them to know who God was, and things of that nature. So we started going to church. So I went to the start going to church with them. And I remember towards the end of the service, the pastor walked up to me and said, "You're a diamond in the rough." Absolutely. Today I can say absolutely, right? Then and there, I didn't really understand what that meant in that moment, but I was absolutely a diamond in the rough because it was rough. I lost my mom, and then you want me to become a mom. Okay. So I moved from willfulness into willingness. So I became open to the process. Was it all better at the time? Nope. It still was down the line when healing really actually started to take place. But in order for you to begin the process of healing, in my opinion, and in my experience, you got to become open. You got to become open to the process, meaning you're going to accept what is, and also you're going to respond in an effective and appropriate way. And that's the work. That's the hard part of it all. Accepting and also how you respond. How you respond to things makes a difference. How you show up to certain um, situations and issues in life, right? That makes a difference because it tells who you are, it tells how you're going to move forward, and so on. So, yeah, becoming willing is important. But if you're willful, that means you're resisting and you're also refusing to accept reality. So, I had to choose to come to the point to where I was self-aware. Because once I became open, um, I I had to become self-aware of like exploring my attitude, my beliefs, and my values. I had to check my emotions. Like, was it actually aligning up to what was happening from the inside? I remember my husband saying, like, when your mom passed away is when I lost you, and that like hit hard. That was some hard thing to accept in that moment too. So I knew I had to get it together. And so the benefit of self awareness is to gain your power back. Like we lose who we are, and also we lose our power. We decrease stress. You become happier, and you also become liberated. And so there is benefits to being self-aware, but in order to be self-aware, you got to check yourself. And that's another hard part, right? Because now you got to see like how you've hurt yourself, how you neglected your family, how you um, processing the grief, how you are um, celebrating, or not necessarily celebrating, but how you are, what's the word? Representing the person or the thing that you lost, right? And so, and that could go against like that's your attitude, that's your beliefs, that's your values. Like, are you standing up to your values? Like, where are you at with that? Are you walking in integrity? Are you growing in this process? Where's your spiritual being at? Like, what is your values, and are you standing up to those things? So becoming self-aware, and it's more than just the things on the surface, it's the things on the inside that's deep, that's buried. And so in order for me to really explore myself, I used some interventions. Some of the interventions that I used was journaling. I asked others' perspectives. I was using some mindfulness skills like some grounding, some breathing, some praying, some walking, those type of things. And then I also had to set boundaries. Now, before when I was willful, I pushed everybody away. I pushed everybody away. I didn't want no phone calls. I didn't want no texts. I wasn't answering. I didn't want to talk about it. I had thoughts of suicide. I had I was crying like often. I wasn't eating. I lost so much weight. Then um yeah, and some of the traditions that me and my husband did, like Christmas breakfast and things like that, that first year I didn't do it at all. So there was so many things that I um pushed away. But once I became willing and not willful, then I started asking those. Actually, I called the main people that I was pushing away that meant something to me. And I had one-on-one conversations with them and I apologized. And then down the line, I began to ask for other perspectives. Like, well, how did you process grief when you was, or um, like I don't know, just having conversation, just opening up conversation, and where it took us, it took us. And it was so much, so helpful. Like I said, I did some mindfulness skills. I didn't call them mindfulness skills then because I didn't know that's what that was. But back then it was like breathing and walking, praying, and just doing things to help me to be calm and still, meditation and things like that. And then I had to set boundaries with myself first, and then set boundaries with others because, like I said, I lost my mom and then I had to become a mom. And then there was husband, and then there was my grown boys. Well, they're men, grown men that we had. And like everything else, and it was work, it was church, it was this, and it was that. So I began to become more mindful in the process once I became open, and it definitely helped. I also remember becoming the evangelist outreach leader at my church. It was the Rock Kingdom Center then, and now it's New Season Church. But I was the outreach leader, which was a major help for me because I not only was able to walk the streets and just do different things as far as outreach because I was helping people, passing, giving out word, and just being who I am as an evangelist. And also, I had my kids with me, so they were also being trained up to do those type things because it's something that I did when I was younger as well um, at the Church of the Living God that I grew up in. So um, there was some positive things, but again, I didn't see that until way down the line. So we've learned that in the process, you got to become open, you got to become willing to do it. And if you're willful, you got to check yourself. And when you check yourself, that's when you're going to become self aware. Self aware, you're going to break down your attitude, your beliefs, and your values. You're also going to check your emotions to see if how is it lining up with what's going on the inside. And then it came to self care. So I had to start taking care of myself because, like I said, I wasn't eating much at all, if at all. I was not um just putting myself first at any time. Like self care, mind, body, and spirit, mind, body, soul, however you want to say it. I did not do that. But self care, why is self care needed? Self care is needed because it needs you got to improve what's going on the inside, and then also um, improve the things that are on the outside. And that's your well being. Like you got to take care of your well being. And then there's daily practice uh, for yourself, like daily do something for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes. do something for yourself, which is hard to do because we have all these things that we do in our lives and from day to day. But the funny part is we don't schedule ourselves. We don't put ourselves in that. And so making time for yourself is going to be key. Let me see what else I have on here. Uh Taking care of yourself also prevents illnesses, right? And so that means you're going to the doctor. If you feeling a certain thing and if you're actually listening to your body, you've got these headaches or blood pressure's constantly up or um, just feeling like, yeah, like fatigue, we got to check on that, right? And so taking care of yourself is actually going to the doctor. Your mental health. Um, your mental health is important because that's depression, that's anxiety, and things like that. And self care can help you reduce that. And so your PMs is your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. You got to choose to take care of all four of those things because if one thing is out of balance, you're out of balance. Okay. And so you got to be in balance. So make a self care plan. A plan looks like accepting what is. Um, well, yeah, accepting what is. Like if you can't like take care of yourself um the whole day, right? Like I said, do the 5 minutes. And if the 5 minutes it is what it is, right? And so that could be breathing, that could be walking, that could just a huge laugh, right? A walk for 5 minutes, drinking plenty of water, um, plan like to do things like exercise and um reading, listening to music, do some of the deeper things. Your manicures, your pedicures, your getting your hair done, doing makeup. Those are things that adds to your self-care, but we want to do some of the deeper things for yourself. Okay, so do some of the deeper things to help you, just because that totally will help to reduce some of that depression and anxiety that you have. So clarity, wow, clarity. I'm gonna hopefully move me a little bit. I don't know if y'all see me, but I'll move it down just a little bit. I like this quote that I got from Google. And it says, as you build a plan, consider the three C's. It says choose, connect, communicate. Choose, choose what's best for you, even during dark bouts of grief. You still possess the dignity of choice. Grief often brings the sense of loss of control. And it does. It brings us a sense of loss of control, right? Because we know we don't have control over the person not being here anymore. We don't have control over our feelings, our thoughts, because we've allowed that grieving process to consume us. And that's where we got to start doing some work. How to find clarity? You find clarity by a peace of mind, right? And so in order to get there, you got to get into that meditation, prayer type state. You got to get into a quiet place. The Bible talks about going into your secret place. Get into your secret place and then you start doing some more then. Surrender. Surrender is tough, right? Because that means you're going to give it all 100%. Like I give it all to you. And we say that all the time, but we don't. You know that song, Take My Burdens to the Lord and Leave Them There. We take them to the altar, but then by the time we get outside or in the car, we're pulling them right off the altar. We taking them back with us, right? And so we gotta learn how to surrender and accepting. Like accepting is really hard, especially like with loss. Period. It's hard. Like my loved one is gone, and also, like, um, I am no longer going to see this person again. You know, and so accepting that's the what they say it's a tough pill to swallow. That's a tough pill to swallow. Um, but I promise you can do it. Um, choose, connect, and communicate. So for me, I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice of what I was gonna do next because I knew I couldn't stay where I was. My heart still aches for my mom and all the things that I've been through and lost, but I still have to choose how I'm going to move forward. And then I had to connect with the right people because I don't want to talk to everybody. Everybody's not for you to talk to, right? And so I had to figure out how to connect with people again and also God. Um, because that's who I was angry at. And so finding that connection again is gonna be key. And then communicate. You gotta communicate what you need. Gotta communicate what you need. If you just need someone to listen, say that. If you just need uh the whole week without any phone calls, any no emails, no none of that, say that and put that in motion. Um, if you just need something to eat every day at 5 o'clock, say that. Say what you need. And there are times, probably every time, what we really need or what we want is our loved ones back. Ooh, that one hit hard. Ooh, okay, that one hit. Um, we want our loved ones back, but guess what? It's not possible. But that's that acceptance, and that's that surrender. And when we are clear about that, we will start benefiting from clarity because you got to remember that you're not alone. That loved one that you lost, that thing that you lost, whatever that you were connected to, is in your heart, in your thoughts, um, in your prayers. Like that person, that loved one is with you, just not physically. Um, yeah, that person is with you. Sorry, y'all. That one hit hard. Okay. So, another benefit of clarity is you're having God's grace, just grace. We talk about grace and mercy. Grace is with you, grace is upon you. Um, Spiritual experience, like you're able at this time when you're starting to find clarity, you're able to connect with your higher power, with God. You're able to connect with them. Um, God, he's a healer. He's a provider, Prince of Peace. Um, he is so much. He is so much. He's my everything. It's hard for me to go down the list, y'all. So, I just sum it up. He's everything, everything, literally everything. But it took me a while to get back around to that and couldn't reconnect with him because I was angry. I was angry. And then you find a sense of safety. Um, Sometimes we just don't feel safe anymore without our loved ones. Sometimes we don't feel secure anymore without our loved ones. And so the benefit of clarity, um, you will find safety. Because again, your God will, I promise you, He will take care. He's taking care of us. But we just have to know that and trust that and believe that. Um, when it says now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. He's there for us. We just have to stand in it. We have to stand in it like never before. Um, Whew, okay. But grace, grace will get us there. But we gotta allow ourselves to come to a sense of clarity. Ooh, and then forgiveness, y'all. Forgiveness is tough. What is forgiveness? I found this on Mayo Foundation website. And it says forgiveness means different things to different people. And it does. But in general, it involves an intentional decision. That means on purpose, right? An intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. That's some more work, right? That's some more work. So then it says the act that hurts, the act that hurt or offended you might always be with you. But working on forgiveness can lessen the axe grip on you. So you what it say? Uh you forgive, but you don't forget. So when you're working on forgiveness and when you come to forgiveness, you're lessening what happened. You're lessening the anger, the resentment, the disappointment, all those things. You're lessening those things as you forgive. That's part of the healing process. And so, I like when it says you making a intentional decision. That means you're on purpose. You're going to be intentional about making a decision that I'm going to let these things go. But I want to tell you, I don't really like to say let go because you actually have to go through those things in order to actually let it go. Going through those things, that's like starting with willingness. Then going to self awareness, then going to clarity. Like there's a process in things. And as you go through the process of grief, you'll eventually starting to lessen your grip on the thing, right? It lessens, and so that peace, that contentment starts to come, and then you start dropping things off. That's where you're starting to let go. But can you just let it go like that? Some people say they can. I know I can't. So those that can, cool beans. Those that cannot, it's a process. It's work, and it's hard work, and it's tough work, but you can do it. The benefit of forgiveness is basically is liberty for you. That's your freedom, right? You're letting those things go. You're healing through those things. Um, you're not only forgiving other people, but you're forgiving yourself, right? You're forgiving yourself for all the things that you put yourself in. When you become self-aware, you recognize how you treated yourself. And then you recognize how you treated other people. And so that's when, like I told you guys earlier, I went to certain people and I apologized because I couldn't do it. I couldn't talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk to nobody. There was nothing nobody said that made sense to me. Like when people going through grief, what we're hearing is distorted because we're hearing nothing. And then we may come upset about all the things, right? I remember being on the porch. My dad's pastor came when he passed away. She came to the house, and the very first thing she said was, "To be absent with the Lord is to be present with the no, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord." I absolutely agree. But that was not what I needed at that moment. My dad was still laying on the bed, passed away, waiting on the medical exam. And so I did not need that at that time. And so my brother grabbed my arm. He's like, "Don't do it." It's not it's not funny, but it's funny today, but it's not funny, but there are certain things that you just cannot hear or make it make sense um when people pass away because you're like I said, it's distorted. Cognitive distortions. You're jumping to conclusions. You're overgeneralizing. You're personalizing everything. You're disqualifying the positive, catastrophizing. You're doing all those things, right? And so the distortions are there and they're real. So there's certain things you just cannot hear. Um, but as you start going through the process and you are allowing yourself to heal, which there's no time frame, but just letting yourself heal, forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. is part of the process. Not only for others, but also forgiving yourself as well. Because the forgiveness is freedom for you. Forgiveness is for you. Whether the person receives it or not, whether you receive you or not. Sometimes we agree disagree with ourselves, right? So we have to remember that um, the forgiveness is for you and for your healing and for you to move forward. So, in order to start processing, no, not to start processing, but in your grieving process, right? It's a dual process. You got to let yourself grieve the loss and also allow yourself to be restored. And so oscillation, that's moving. You're moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? So you're doing some grief work. Um, you're going through intrusion of grief and so on, right? And so you're sitting in loss. If you're sitting in loss and you're not letting yourself be restored, letting yourself be restored means you're doing new things, going through the things that I just said, like allowing yourself, being open to the healing process, allowing yourself to become self-aware, allowing yourself to come to clarity, allowing yourself to forgive. If you're not doing any of those things, you're stuck in loss. Okay. And when you're stuck in loss, you're not moving. You're doing nothing for your healing, for your heart, for your health, for your mental health, your physical health, for your spiritual being. You're doing nothing for it. And that's not fair to you. So when you become willing, you start to move. And when you start to move, you allow yourself to be restored. You're being restored by attending to life changes. That's where, like, oh, wow, I cannot pick up that phone anymore to call my mom. Can't pick it up, can't go over there, can't go over there and get a hug, can't do none of that stuff. So now I am attending to life changes. That means I'm coming into reality and I have to start accepting reality. But again, it's a process. You're doing new things when you're allowing yourself to restore. You're bringing on some distractions from the grief, like you're taking those walks, you're reconnecting or connecting with people that truly support you. Denial, avoidance of grief, like you're no longer doing that. You're allowing those things to pass through, like new roles, identities, relationships occur, and so much more, right? But you got to choose to keep moving. But I'm hurting. Okay, but go take a walk. I'm hurting. Okay, but allow yourself to cry. But I'm hurting. Okay, go to church and just sit in the back. But I'm hurting. Okay, call somebody and ask for prayer. You got just keep moving. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And I don't know if this is what this means, but when I look at this diagram, you see how some lines are huge and then some are short. So like you're making great strides, but then it's shorter lines, and so you're making smaller steps. And then you have some big steps, and then you have some big steps, and then you have some smaller steps, and then I'm stuck over here. That's fine because you're oscillating, you're moving. You're moving, whether it's huge or whether it's small, you are moving. You're allowing yourself to heal. And that is what is important, that you're moving. Don't let yourself get stuck in it. It's easy to do, right? It's very easy to do. I did it. So I know. But it was not healthy for me at all. It wasn't healthy for me. Um, because we have to remember that our losses happen in our lives and not to life. But we don't get that while we're grieving. We don't get that when we get that phone call. We don't get that when we're going through the funeral process. We don't get that when the person's buried, they're in the ground or cremated or whatever, and then life has to continue. We don't get that then. I know that. But a key thing is to remember as you are healing, it happens in your life, but not to your life, because your life is still going, and you have a responsibility to take care of you in that process, which is hard to do. But that responsibility is yours. You gotta let God do his thing in you. And also you gotta meet him with you gotta meet him. You gotta join him with it and allow yourself to move so you can start the restoration. Okay. Start the restoration. Um, which is tough. Um, but everyday life experience. We should be moving back and forth somehow. And remember, our smallest things are huge things at us at some point because that's all we have. That's all we have in the moment. That's all we have, um, period. Like sometimes in our grief process is the smallest thing. The smallest thing is I got up and turned the light on because the light is usually off. The smallest thing is instead of me not eating, I drunk up 16-ounce water. That's a small thing, right? The phone rang and I answered it. I didn't talk, but I answered it. Small thing, but that's a huge thing because it's something that you wasn't doing before. And so we got to remember to let those small things shadow us in the moment until we're able to gradually make bigger things in it. So we also have, we should be checking our emotions, our feelings. So this is a feelings wheel. We're gonna know where we are. Like, what am I feeling today? Am I surprised? Am I sad? Am I ashamed? Am I loving today? Am I joyful? Am I proud? Am I angry? Am I disgusted? Like, how am I feeling today? And then sometimes because we have numbed, we are frozen based on our grief or our loss, but we're numb to it. We don't know what we're feeling. We don't know what it is, right? And so I love the wheel how it has the faces on it. So if the faces can match up with some of the feelings that you're feeling on the inside, match it up. Okay. Match it up so you'll know what's happening where you at. So if you're disgusted, if you're disgusted, check that. Like, okay, if I'm disgusted, then what do I need to do to move past that? Because that means I could be scorn, I could be hateful, right? And so on. And so we gotta be repulsive. Like we gotta check where we are because those feelings are not only hurting ourselves, but it's hurting someone else. So how can I shift? How can I change that to something at least as I don't know if you're gonna be loving, but joy, like experiencing the pain, like happiness. Like how do I get there? How can I shift that? Maybe taking a walk can shift that. Maybe drinking that water will shift that. Maybe calling somebody and just saying hello and just sitting there, you know, pulling out the journal. But something to help ease and also release that disgust that you have so you can move forward. Okay. So we got to check our feelings. We may even want to become peaceful. Peaceful just means we're coming into acceptance. I'm content, so do some things to help you at least find some contentment, to where you are. But if you're on the disgust or angry, afraid, all those type, sad, those type things, we got to move. We gotta move. Okay. We're stuck. We're getting stuck. We gotta move. Okay. But it's okay to feel those feelings. All the feelings that you have, it's okay to feel those feelings. But when we're stuck in it and it's harming, it's not helping us, but it's harming us, then that's why we gotta uh check it and also move it. Get to at least to where you're at peace or find some contentment and whatever that looks like for you. So the stages of grief is denial, is anger, is bargaining, is depression, and is acceptance, right? And so I remember when my mom passed away, my granny came in, and I think she said something to the effect of, "Take me, not her," or something like that. And so sometimes we bargain in the moment based on what we are grieving, right? And so when we are in this cycle, and these can go in any form, you can be feeling, it feels like we're feeling all those things at one time. Um, and that's okay too. But remember to keep moving, oscillation. So you could be in denial. When you're in denial, still move over so you can get restored, okay? And find your way to distract yourself from that denial, because then that's moving into acceptance. We're accepting the things we cannot change. Okay. So we gotta keep moving. But it's okay to feel these things, and you're going to feel these things. And that's okay. So what does resilience come in with this? Resilience, I just wanted to remind you that you can bounce back. Um, it was a long time before I could understand what resilience was. And I became a crisis counselor. And when I became a crisis counselor, one of the questions was, and I'm going to get this wrong, but basically it said, have you ever felt resilient in a crisis situation? So did you ever? So I reframed it after talking to a coworker for a while about that question and what it meant to her, so I could understand it. But have you ever felt like you can bounce back from tough situations, basically? And so I never even looked at life like that, or the things that I do or have done in the past. Um, when I had a tough situation or any situation, I never really looked at that. So I really couldn't answer the question for myself. Um, but once I understood that I can bounce back from tough situations, like talking about my mom, talking about my dad, all those things are like, um, I would say contentment for me today, right? Because I'm not going into the panic that I was going in. I'm not a ball of emotions. I'm not um just overly sensitive about it anymore. I've come to a sense of contentment, a sense of peace. And I thank God for that. Um, so I can say that I bounced back. Some people think that they're resilient because they're coping. They've been coping. When you are just coping through a situation, that means you're on survival mode. And so just because like when you are going through a tough time and you're still able to cook, clean, um, take the kids to school, you're still able to go to work and do all those things, you could be on survival mode. But when you're actually bouncing back from those things, it's not necessarily survival anymore. Like you are kicking butt, like you're successfully like getting through the tough situation. Um, and I say that because too, when we are on survival mode, you're not taking any processes to heal. You're not necessarily moving through the process of what's hurting you, because the situation is still so real in your life, right? But when you start processing and also start the process of healing, then you move into that resilience, like you're finding yourself bouncing back from all those things. So like now I'm able to talk about grief and loss without falling apart. So that's a self of belief, control of self, willingness to adapt, willingness to be flexible, ability to solve problems, emotional awareness, social support, and sense of humor. And all those things can also look like when you're coping through. The situation is so real, like maybe a tough divorce or something like that. And it's tough. You're going through it, right? And so it's not finished, it's not resolved. You're just going through the process, going back and forth to court and doing all the things. You're surviving through it. Like, and also you are showing resilience. But sometimes it's more of survival than it is resilience in the moment, because you're still hurting, you're still in pain, um, you're still going through the process of it. So but resilience is real. Finding a finding a way or allowing yourself to bounce back from tough things. Like people were homeless and they bounced back. How did they bounce back? They have a home, they have a roof over their head. They're able to work and start, supplying food for their table and um having money here and there and got a car and going starting to go to church and things like that. Resilience, right? Resilience, like from being on the streets to um having your own place and finding stability. Resilience, right? um Someone suffering from substance abuse, um know a lady, I think it's about 12 years um sober. Resilience. I'm bouncing. I'm doing it, you know. I'm living life day to day. Um and also you gotta remember there's still gonna be hard times in that, right? You're still gonna have hard times. But at the same time, you've found a way, um, resources and finding things in life to um, help you through supports, strong support system, strong network, things like that. You got the tools now to push yourself forward when you are having a tough time. You've you're falling under that grace that I talked about. We talked about clarity. So resilience is key, y'all. So I want you guys to be resilient in your grief. It's tough. You know, no one wants to see their loved ones go. Um, no one wants to not talk to their loved ones ever again, right? Physically, like in person. No one wants to do that. Um, but it happens. That's where we are, in life. That's what happens in life. And so, finding your way to heal is going to be key. Everybody's way is not the way. So none of this may not even be for you, right? Because I got my own way, and that's totally fine. Um, that's totally fine. But as long as you have a way, as long as you're not allowing yourself to be stuck or get stuck, um, because I was stuck at one time, and several times. I've had many things happen, but I found a way. I found a way. And now I'm able to talk to you guys about it and also process it with you guys. And also, if it happens to me again, or if I come up with another loss, and I'm able to pull those resources, I'm able to pull those tools, I'm able to pull these PowerPoints and all these things to help me through. I'm able to pray. I have a God that I'm not angry at anymore. so, so it's tough, right? But you definitely can be resilient through it. Um, so the last thing that I um, come with is celebration. And no, we're not celebrating. Woo, my person is gone. Nope, not doing that. But we're celebrating how it's basically moving forward, not moving on. And you're moving forward with the person. You're moving forward with the memories. You're moving forward with the love and the care that you had and they had for you. You're moving forward with it. We're not moving on. Nope. We're gonna take them with us because our grief process is there for the rest of our lives. Just like recovery from substance use and all those things, it's for the rest of your life, right? And so you're gonna be grieving, you're gonna be missing that person, you're gonna have tears here and there. You may get angry, you may go back into denial, all those things. That roller coaster is still gonna be with you. But I promise you, it lessens as you allow yourself to heal. It's not as strong, it's not as heavy. And then some people say, well, mine's still heavy. Well, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're doing nothing, you're gonna stay heavy. But if you're doing something that's healthy and for you to move, It's gonna lessen. It's gonna lessen. Not your feelings or thoughts, but just how you think about, how you feel about, how you process um, all the things. It's gonna lessen to something more healthier for you and peaceful and content for you, right? And so um I pray that all that something that was said was helpful for you. I pray um that your grief process gets lighter. Yeah, I pray that it gets lighter. Um yeah, grief is tough. Grief is hard. But guess what? My friend says all the time, you can do hard things. And you definitely can do hard things. The Bible tells us that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. A young lady said, I'm not going to pray for strength anymore because I know that the strength is there. My God, my high power is there, but I'm going to pray for guidance so I can get to that strength. I am going to pray for guidance, and that's my prayer for you guys is guidance, guidance through your grief, because there's no right way, there's no wrong way. But if all your ways is unhealthy, that's not a good way. You got to find some healthy ways. And also, it comes over time. It's not going to come the day they pass. It's not going to come maybe a week later, maybe not a month, not a year, maybe not 2 years, not 3 years, not 4 years, maybe not 10 years, but it will come. But you got to allow yourself to process and grieve as you need to. Okay. But do it healthy. Do it healthy. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay for you to ask for help. So, I'm sorry, I'm not as like a singer or anything, but there's a song that says, "My life was torn beyond repair." I don't know the words. I feel so alone. See, no one cares, but you came along and gave me a song to ease the pain and erase the strain. You could have left me standing there with no one to care. You promised me you'll be there on time, but you did just what you said. And that's when you bless me. That song, I don't know, it just came to me. But that's when you bless me. Like sometimes we are lost. We're in pain, we're hurting, we're sad. Um, we gotta remember that we are not alone because God's word says that He will never leave nor He will forsake us. His word says, "Surely in goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." So we got to remember that we are not alone. We may put ourselves alone because we isolate, but we are not alone. So, you know, um, yeah, but He blesses us in that, in all of that. Even if you're isolating, He still blesses us in that. That's that grace and mercy that comes in there. But my prayer is for guidance for all of you through your grief process in the name of Jesus. And you guys have a great night. And I hope something on here blesses you all. Love you guys and see you soon.